Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make Gougères, also known as French cheese puffs, and this is what they look like. Hot from the oven, these puffs, the outside crust is wonderfully crisp, yet inside they're soft and tender. And not only are they flavored with cheese, but I also like to add some finely chopped chives and some cooked bacon, and then I like to sprinkle the tops of the puffs with some sesame seeds. So the first thing you need to do is to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius. And then you will need a baking sheet. I've lined mine with parchment paper, but you could lightly butter it as well. So cheese puffs, we make this with choux pastry, and that pastry is a little unusual in that we cook it first and then we bake it. But what's good is it's made with the most basic of ingredients. And while for this recipe I'm making 8 of the large puffs, you can scale this up, double it, triple it. So it's great if you have a large amount of people, you can scale this really easily. So first you will need a saucepan, and I'm going to first put in 1/4 cup, 60 milliliters of just milk. You could use whole milk or like a reduced fat. And then I'm adding 1/4 cup, 60 milliliters of just water, along with 4 tablespoons, 55 grams of unsalted butter. And then also 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of just granulated white sugar. Now I'm going to put this over medium-high heat and bring it to a boil. Just stir it once in a while to make sure everything gets mixed together. So now we're coming up to a boil, so I'm just going to remove that from the heat. And then you will need 1/2 cup, 65 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. I'm just going to whisk it just to get a little air in there. You could sift it. And then you want to add your flour all at once. Now I'm using a heat-proof spatula for this, but you could use like a wooden spoon. And you want to just stir in all your flour. Make sure it's all moistened. You can see that. So that's what you're looking for. And now we're going to put it back on the heat, medium-low heat here, because we're going to cook this, cook the flour a little, get a little moisture taken out. And then you want to be stirring this constantly. And we want it to be a nice smooth ball. It'll clear the sides of your saucepan. And you know it's done because you'll start to get a film on the bottom of your saucepan. Now this is only going to take, maybe a minute. Depending, like if you were doubling this recipe, it might take a little longer than that. Okay, that's good. Nice smooth ball. And you can see there's a little bit of a film on the bottom of the saucepan, so that's what you're looking for. So now I'm just going to unplug that. So at this point, move that. If you have you can use a stand mixer with your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer for this, or really, you can just make the whole batter in your saucepan with a wooden spoon. But since I have a stand mixer, that's what I'm going to use. So what we want to do right now is cool this off. It's quite hot. So I'm just going to put my mixer on low speed and just beat this, maybe 30, 60 seconds, just until it's lukewarm. You'll see a lot of steam coming off, but if you did it in a saucepan, just stir it. Same sort of thing. Okay, so if you feel it, it's still warm, so that's where you want to get it. So now we are going to slowly add some beaten egg into this mixture. So I have 2 large eggs. That's about 110 grams. Have your eggs at room temperature, and then just use a whisk. We're not going to add all the beaten egg at once, and the reason is we don't know how much that the flour mixture, how much egg it will absorb. You know, depending on how long you cooked your choux, it may absorb all of the egg. You may need a little more egg or a little less. So I will show you what to look for. So, but that's why we're not going to add it all at once. So what I'm going to do is add maybe 3/4. We'll start with that. Now I'm going to beat this again on low speed, and you will notice as you do it, so don't panic. It's going to kind of look curdled. It's kind of break apart. Just keep mixing, and it'll all come together into this real thick, smooth and shiny paste. If you're doing it by hand, just stir it with your wooden spoon. Just keep stirring it. Okay, so you can see it's nice and smooth, thick, but it's too thick. So I am going to add more egg. I'm going to add it all. And again, just keep beating it until it comes together. Nice, smooth, thick, smooth paste. Okay, so this is looking pretty good to me. But I'm going to show you what you need to look for. Because, like I said, it's really, while I used my full 2 large eggs, you may need more or less. So what you want to do is take your spatula. You can see this. See how it falls? And it makes a V. And then the V is not ragged. It's pretty smooth. So that's what you're looking for. If it's really, like when you lift it and you let it fall down and it's really ragged, beat it a little more and add just a little more egg. So really that's what you're looking for. So now at this point we're going to add our cheese. You will need about 1/3 cup, which is 30 grams. Now I'm using Gruyere cheese grated. I've also tried it with Parmesan, grated Parmesan. That's very good. You could maybe try another type of cheese, maybe a cheddar. The Gruyere has a really nice flavor. I really like it in here. And then what I like to add, now this is totally optional. I'm adding 1 tablespoon, which is about 3 grams of finely chopped chives. You could also use green onion. I think the cheese and the green onion or the chives is good. And then take it over the top. I'm adding, it's about 2 tablespoons, 15 grams of finely chopped cooked bacon. I mean, to me that's just perfect. And I'm going to stir that in. Like I said, you could leave out the chives and the bacon. You could add like maybe some tarragon, if other herbs or something. Have fun with it. So that, okay, so we're done that. So now, I like to make, as you can see here, I like to make large puffs. Typically, they're small. You'd serve them like an hors d'oeuvre. I actually like them big, and I mainly serve them when we have soups or stews instead of bread, but you can make them smaller if you want. So it's almost like 3 tablespoons is what I use. I'm using an ice cream scoop, which is about 45 grams. You can make them smaller. Sometimes I make them like small for hors d'oeuvres, like 1 tablespoon. So, and you want to space them a little apart because they do puff up. Okay, so that's 8. There we go. Now, we're going to brush the tops with an egg wash. But before I do that, I'm going to say, you can freeze these at this point. What you would need to do is just take the whole baking tray, just put it in your freezer until these are completely frozen, and then put them into a sealed container or a freezer bag, which is perfect because then, and you can later just bake them frozen. They will just take a few minutes longer to bake. So that's why sometimes you might want to make a double batch and freeze one tray for later. So now you will need one large egg, 55 grams, and I'm just going to whisk that. What's great is you have this egg here. So when you're making your choux pastry, if you find, oh, I need a little more egg in my choux to make it the right consistency, we're using an egg here, so you can just use a bit of that. No waste that way. You don't want to, if you're freezing these, do not egg wash them before you freeze. Do that, before you bake them. So now just take a pastry brush, and what I'm going to do is just lightly brush the entire puff with the beaten egg. And then, once that's done, and again, this is kind of optional, I like to sprinkle the top with some sesame seeds. You could also use some grated cheese if you want to add more cheesy taste, but I like the sesame seeds, I like the look. So there, that's what you do. Forgot to mention, when you're egg washing, what's great about it is, if I used an ice cream scoop, so my mounds are pretty nice and smooth, but if you are scooping out with a spoon, or you could also pipe your amount, when you brush it, you can kind of smooth everything out to make it a nice little mound with nice edges. So an added benefit of egg washing. Now the egg washing will give us helps with browning and gives it our puffs a nice shine. So now, a lot of people find the tricky part is baking choux pastry. We are going to first, like everyone's oven is a little different, but first bake them for 10 minutes at 375 Fahrenheit, 190 Celsius. And what's going to happen is that's going to set the structure. They're going to puff up. And then we're going to lower the heat after 10 minutes to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And we're going to bake them for an additional, I would say, in my oven, about 25 minutes. So what they're going to puff up, they're going to turn a really deep golden brown, and we're cooking them that long because what we want to do is make sure that the inside of our choux pastry is pretty hollow. There might be a little bit of dough and cheese, but we don't want it soggy. You can have a little dough, but not soggy. So, if this is your first time, I would recommend if they look done, just take one out and crack it open and see. Make sure that they're pretty hollow and it's not soggy. If it's soggy, maybe cook them another 5 minutes. So 10 minutes at the high, and then drop it down to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius for about 25 minutes. Okay, so our cheese puffs are done, or at least I've made these so many times to test the recipe. That's why I kind of have the baking time down. At home, you might want to break one open like I'm doing here. A little hot, but you feel it. The pastry is dry inside. I don't know whether you can see that. If it was really soggy, then cook them a little longer, but mine are fine. So put your pan on a wire rack. I am going to let these cool just a little bit before I try them. So we'll be right back. So I let them cool like just a little bit. Typically you do serve these hot from the oven, and that's when the outside is wonderfully crisp. Oh. The whole kitchen smells of cheese and pastry, which is wonderful. These are just so good. The outside, like I said, is nice and crisp. And then inside you can see the pastry, but taste of cheese, and then the chives and the bacon. And I like the sesame seeds on top. I think it kind of makes them look just that little bit better. Now, you can serve them hot from the oven. Actually, you can let them cool down, and I find, later you could serve them the same day. They're still really good. I like to often serve them, like I said, with soup or stews. And you know what's really good? Is if you can cut them in half and make like little sandwiches. Sometimes I put like a slice of ham, maybe a little tomato, a little lettuce, make little sandwiches. And you can store these like for a day or two at room temperature. But what you probably want to do is put them like in probably about a 350 degree Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius oven, just until they get nice and crisp again. Or you can like freeze them once they're baked and then reheat them. So you got some alternatives there, but got to try these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.